Pouring rain. Back at the Swan Church. Val, after talking with everyone, or at least most people, getting a bit of a rundown, but not everything, his head turns to Arsis, who is walking away from everything, head's held down slightly. Val, feel like he needs to let some things off his chest. Some things need to be said. Follows after her. Arsis, can we talk?
Arsis would turn her head to look towards Val. Her overall demeanor gives off exhaustion as her eyes are lulled slightly from the impact of everything that's been happening recently. The stress of finding her brother again, then the stress of finding out that he blames her for a majority of the horrors he had to deal with up to this point, along with the fallout between Akiyama and really the understanding that everyone she cares for is slowly starting to be pulled apart, is obviously taking her toll on the wayward princess. Yes, Val. What is it?
The lips go tight seeing her and hearing her voice. I saw that, Kra was a bit indisposed. What happened?
Her lips would tighten to a flat line, while continuing her pace towards one of the back rooms, expecting you to follow, while continuing answering your question. Just added onto my long list of failures, I suppose.
Malphurus's brown follows after her. He's a big guy, so I think it takes a lot to put him down like that. No need to beat yourself up too much. What exactly happened? Who attacked? Do you know?
Who they were personally? No. But apparently they worked for the individuals that are accosting Matt. So I suppose that is still a threat. And I'm still someone that needs to be coddled, I suppose.
Malphurus frowned her. It's not about coddling. Just need to talk. Everyone needs to talk. I was back in. Looks around. Hell, I had to talk. Granted, not to someone else. I had to talk to myself. But you know, it worked out. Still, had a little thing going. I was this other. It doesn't matter.
She would raise
Anyway,
a hand into your stuttering and stumbling. I didn't mean it like that. Just in the fact that I'm still not at a martial level as the rest of you, which obviously shows that protection is still needed.
Alright, well. Just throws it back with his neck. Right. So, look, I need to talk to you about earlier.
She'd reach the room that she was hoping to access. A empty room that is primarily used as an arts and activity center, where she currently has on one of the tables a workstation of what looks like scrolls, tomes, and writing utensils. You're not too quite sure when she set this up, but it looks like this might be the place she retreats to keep herself busy. And what would be the topic of our conversation? She mentions before reaching down towards the bench and taking a seat.
Val gets a seat in front of her at the table, or just pulling up a seat, anything needed to sit down to face her head on. Closing the door behind them, obviously. I need to talk to you about your permission.
Were you able to handle the issue today? Her voice seems callous as she brings this up.
Val furrows his brow at that. Arim is still alive, but he's not going to be a problem anymore. He was under what we think is a witch's influence, but we were able to break it.
Good. I knew I could rely on you. She says with a hollow smile before looking down towards the desk and beginning to translate or transfer information from one book to a scroll, thinking that was the end of what she wanted to say.
Arsis pipes up, leaning forward on the table. I shouldn't have had permission there.
Not looking up and continuing to write. Whatever do you mean?
What I mean is, you shouldn't have given me permission to eat his soul. That wasn't needed.
She pauses for a moment before looking towards you very direct. If I don't give you permission, then you'll never do it.
He sighs, running back. Okay, look. I know. Look, I'm aware of the situation, alright? I was the one that supplied the information that I need to eat souls, otherwise brain rots. He leans back, but the diet needs to be particular. I don't want to be just eating anyone. Arim wasn't bad. He was stupid and he was getting in our way, but he wasn't bad, Arsis. I shouldn't... Eating a soul is not just a death sentence. It doesn't just make sure that they can't come back. It's a punishment, and it's a really...
She says, stifling what almost felt like it was going to be a yell. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Do you think I told you that because I wanted you to go out and eat a soul? No. I said it because I assumed that you would be... I said it because I assume you can assess the situation, and I didn't want to be a burden. If you knew that it would require more in a simple way of handling it. Do you see me as that bad of a person? I don't doubt it, because lately I have seen myself nothing better. But that was not my intention.
Val looks down at the table, looks back at her, and kind of brings a hand up to point to his mouth.
Realizing that her word again influenced you, she put a hand on her forehead before rubbing. You can speak.
I'm sorry for coming at it that harshly. Shit's been going down, and shit happened at the dock. People are breaking at the seams, and I've seen it before because I went down that road, and it's not just you are worried about the people and how this is all getting to them. But I'm particularly asking you because, well, we're friends. Other than Akiyama at this point, we're the only ones still here right now.
Don't write Riker off.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Just
Once he's better, he'll be here with us. We just have to make do while he's still in bed.
Val nods, right.
She sighs, putting the pen down. If I ever had the intention on wishing death dealt by your hand, Val, trust me that I wouldn't do it in such a non-direct manner. I'll never treat taking somebody's life lightly. Ever.
That seems to take one stone off of Val's shoulders as his shoulders relax a little, and he nods. Okay. Alright. That's good. It's very good. That wasn't all I wanted to talk about. Don't worry, this isn't another bombshell about something else that I've done. I'm actually gonna be talking about you. Like, puts hands in front of himself on the table. You've been studying a lot of different magics.
She looked down towards the different tomes that are open and scrolls that are around in this little workstation before looking back up to you. A quizzical brow raised that can be seen through the metal mask that she wears. I have.
At the library, you're looking at a book about extracting souls, you said? What exactly are you planning to do with that?
She bite her bottom lip as you ask that question.
Val waits for a reply.
I want to make sure that Fiona is in a good place.
Val furrows his brow, looking to the table. I suppose there's reason to suspect that her soul isn't where it should be, given the circumstances. He says, putting a hand up and rubbing his eyes. It's a possibility that he didn't want to consider, but it being brought up here in this context, especially with the person that's being brought up to, it can't help but consider. So how do you think you'll go about this? I mean, we could ask Craw. They did go to that temple. Maybe they'll be able to help out.
I
know.
never ask anything of that deity. As long as I breathe.
Right. Ravel says, with a hand going up to scratch his neck again, but noticing the Roman numerals on his hand, kind of winces a little. Right. So, clasping his hands back in front of himself, what have you found thus far?
Eyeing you to make sure you're not doing this out of anything besides curiosity. She would eventually gesture you to sit beside her and sit across.
Val would get up and go sit beside her.
She would pick up a tome and place it in front of you and lean in next to you, pointing at the different text inside. So far what I've learned is that, especially when it involves demonic auras or presence, the involvement of a soul out of that nature binding itself with one tends to damn the soul with it. So far I've been searching through text, just trying to learn more of how demonic and devilish contracts work, and she begins to just go on this long tangent of deals souls bound to extra ordinary creatures, their fates, and the hypothetical ways of trying to understand, lock, possess, or regain a soul lost in such a ways. But most of the text that she shows you is, as it sounds, hypothetical. There is no easy answers, and the only one she really doesn't go into much detail, you notice on the pile, is a book about summoning. But this goes on for at least an hour worth of her expositing what she's learned so far.
Val listens, taking it all in, letting her explain everything. The fact that it's dealing with deals, like a bit of a, I wouldn't say tickle, just a sting in the back of his head, considering the stuff that he can do, he's never actually gone through with. And can't help but feel a little bit of residual guilt with the things that she describes, the things that his kind can inflict upon people, some unawares of what they're actually doing. And then, as she gets to the closing parts of the hour explaining, he glances up at the piece that hasn't been touched. And that, he says, pointing at that particular tome.
She eyes it and purses her lip. To be honest, I took it thinking that I was a lot more interested in it, but as of late, I just don't really have much interest in trying to study that one. I was planning on returning it when I get the chance.
Well, looks at her and looks at the book, holding up his hand slightly. May I?
She shrugs as she grabs it and hands it towards you.
And he nods and starts looking through it slightly. Like, as he's skimming, also talking to her. Well, this all looks... It's a fair assumption of what could have happened. I'm glad you had the foresight to actually think about it.
It's the only thing I've thought about. At least what I've been trying to think about ever since Akiyama dumped me.
Emil stops skimming for a second and looks up at her. How are you doing about that?
She just plops her head on the table as it gives off a wooden to metal clink.
Val flinches at that bad, huh?
I don't know why I said no.
Mel furrows his brow. Are you having second thoughts?
How nothing but second thoughts. I'm a contingent of things that I wish I could make decisions on and then choose things that end up turning out wrong. I basically am the living version of the Arcanian knot.
Well, puts the book down on the table, open to the page he was on. Well, let's think about this for a second. Do you remember your mindset? The reasoning as to why you said no?
Just... She'd bring her hands up and tilt her head on her hands instead of lying on the table. It just felt too sudden. The decision felt like I didn't have a choice besides to do it or not do it. And honestly, I didn't know if I wanted to, but I didn't want to lie to him and say yes and then regret it later. So instead I said no, and I'm regretting it later.
Well, I don't know too much, but I can assume that Akiyama seemed a bit tense, a bit high-strung at the time. Seemed a bit like he was, I don't know, being a little I don't know. I don't know how to really describe it, but it's probably because of everything that's happening right now with him. And well, yeah, it's not his fault or anything. It is a piece of him, and if you don't like that about him, and if you feel like with everything you go through that it wouldn't be fun, enjoyable to have that in your life, maybe it was a good thing.
I think I've learned good things much lately.
Well, let's analyze that for a second. I mean, even if it wasn't, even though things didn't go perfectly, if you didn't push to go and actually, you know, tell your brother about your existence, like, we wouldn't have made any real progress. We wouldn't have really made any, like, the dinner would have just been, malarkey, other than maybe Akiyama telling if he was the real guy. But you pushed us to do that, and you have been pushing to get shit done, regarding everything that you are striving for, to build a better he gestures to everything around them place that you're living in. And none of us really step up to do that. We're kind of wrapped up in our own personal things, and even you have your own personal things, he says, gesturing to the summon. But you're still looking out for your kingdom. So, and I mean, I think, despite how mad he was, I do think there's a part of him that is glad that you're still alive. And yeah, I think that you're doing good. I'm always going to be here to, keep on the right path. He says, giving her a awkward, playful punch in the shoulder. But I do believe in you. If there's no doubt, what's the point of belief, I think Akiyama said that once. He says, looking down, trying to...
She'd smirk and chuckle at that. Well, regardless of what I believe and think, Akiyama's moved on.
Says, looking down. Yeah, I don't know. He gets caught up on things.
I don't know, I just got so upset when I heard that he had children already. My father would have never approved of me being with someone that already had children. The stresses of children that already exist with one that could be put in me, and the royal implications, and just...
looks a little awkward at the train of thought, but that just kind of just shrugs it off. Right. Well, yeah, children are an enigma to me. Um, and I mean, they grow so small to than us or you or like. But
She
I
watches
don't
you
know.
as you're speaking that.
Maybe the children, like maybe having children like that isn't so bad. I mean,
Val,
it's like steps, right? Yeah.
why didn't you go after Vero when you had the chance to leave us? I watched you in the forest when we were walking and took that rest that day at the campfire. You wanted to leave, didn't you?
Val's face like drops at that. Hearing someone mention her, he bites his lip and looks down to the table. I she like winces. Lets out a breath. She was put in a very dangerous position because she was there with me. We were just looking at stars, and then a demon attacked. I don't think that's usual for children of your plane to deal with. And even when I tried to hand her off to Rhodes, but in a better state than where I found her, she felt alone. She felt like no one really understood her. And I thought that if I just showed him some tough love, he says, like puffing up his chest, that he'd see it, but to him, I was probably just the guy that put his daughter in danger. And I just felt like if I went after them, but beyond that, I don't want to abandon you all. I don't want to abandon you. Because we talked, and I said I believed in you as a ruler of whatever you rule in the end, and I was abandoned before, and I'm not doing that to anyone else. Even though I kind of did it.
I would never think that you would abandon me if you wanted to go and live a happy life with that girl. As long as you're not trying to get her drunk, at least. And if I'm a roadblock against your happiness, Val, you shouldn't hesitate to move me. I would rather be left aside than to sap the idea of you having a happy life.
Val looks at her, furling his brow, and then looks down, contemplates for a little bit.
You have my permission to leave. Whenever you want.
He looks up at her, opens his mouth to seem like he's about to protest, but then closes it and just nods. Thank you.
She smiles.
Nods. I don't always say this. Actually, don't think I've ever said this. Looks at her. You are my closest friend, Darcis. Just wanted you to know that.
You play a dangerous game there, Mr. Demon. My last closest friend died. Say in a melancholy joke.
Well, takes a lot for me to die. Being a demon and all.
Her face
I live forever.
Her face goes stone-like and serious as she looks at you when you say that. Do you promise?
What?
Do you promise that you're hard to die?
He sees the look in her eyes and folds his hands down. Closes his eyes, take a deep breath, and then pulls her in for a hug. I promise, I'm hard to die. I actually just pulled off a spell, won't you know? I'm constantly healing, so if I get shot or something, you don't need to worry about magicking me or anything. I heal up right quick.
She embraces you in that hug and just chuckles slightly. It looks like I ended up with a little demon after all.
Yeah, I am kind of bitty, I suppose.
Shut up, stupid. That's not a command.
That's good. That's good. We can work with that.
And as the two of them hug within the recreational room, while the rest of the world is covered in rain and thunder, that's where we're going to end it.